43 years ago, the journal Educational Psychologist put a very special research article filled with secrets on studying and learning into this very time capsule. Today, we are going to open it for the very first time. Here it is. It's by someone named Robert Bjork. Never heard of him. Let's see what he has to say. Okay, I'm back to report on what I found. This guy, Robert Bjork, has basically 4 recommendations. The first recommendation is to space out your studying sessions. If you are studying new information for the first time, and P1 here is the first time that you're seeing this new information, and P2 is the second time that you're seeing this new information, and time is on an axis over here, this scenario, where you've spaced out your study sessions, can result in test scores twice as high as the non-spaced scenario. So it's funny how these ancient people thought. His second recommendation is to process information more actively and deeply. One of the experiments he describes has people in one condition look at this sentence for 10 seconds to try to memorize it. In the other condition, people look at a scrambled version of the sentence and try to unscramble the sentence and memorize the sentence in 10 seconds. It was the people who had to unscramble their sentences that remembered their sentences better. They had to attend to the meaning and the structure of the sentence rather than just look at it and try to memorize it. The practical advice here is to input less and output more. Spend less time consuming information and more time synthesizing, paraphrasing, and recalling information. His third recommendation has to do with an ancient and forgotten technique called variable encoding. Now, encoding is the process of putting new information into your long-term memory. So anytime you read a book or you watch a lecture, you try to remember someone's name, you are encoding some information. Variable encoding is to try to remember that information in at least 2 different ways. The best example he gives is actually from teaching. So he takes a full semester psychology course where he normally would take the entire semester to teach the content. And he taught the entire content twice in the same semester. So in the first half, he taught the content from a historical or biographical perspective. When did Pavlov come along and what did he do? When did Freud come along and what did he say? In the second round, he taught it from a mechanistic perspective. So he looked at the brain and brain mechanisms and tried to explain experimental outcomes through brain mechanisms. He recommends applying the same idea to studying. So if you can connect new ideas to 2 different perspectives, it's very helpful for remembering that information. Let me give you some perspectives that you could use. In this case, we're learning about the immune system. One is a historical perspective, the development of ideas or techniques over time. So what experiments or new ideas changed how we thought the immune system worked? Another perspective would be the developmental perspective. So same idea with the historical perspective in that you're looking at change over time, but this time you're focused on a particular individual or particular animal or thing. So for the immune system, you might say, what parts of the immune system begin, say, when you are a baby, and how do they grow and change as you grow older into childhood, adolescence, adulthood, old age? 3, another perspective you might take is a mechanistic perspective. So think of a clock or a car. What causes create what effects? A pathogen enters the body. What happens next? What is the body's response? What systems kick into gear? And then how do those systems trigger the next series of events? A 4th perspective you could take is a taxonomic perspective. So think of biologists when they're trying to figure out, well, where does a species belong? What species are related to other species? Now, in the immune system context, you might think about the immune systems and its subsystems So you would have a hierarchy of systems that are differentially related to one another. Now, there are plenty of other structural perspectives that you could take. If you have an idea for a good structural perspective that helps you to understand information, please let me know down in the comments. All of this folds into his fourth recommendation, which is how structure influences memory. If we can pin ideas to existing structures in our mind, or build structures from the new ideas that we are receiving, then it makes it much easier to remember this information in the future. It's funny what ancient people thought about learning and studying. Wait, did he mention the spacing thing? That was something. Wait, and the variable encoding and the importance of building structure in the brain, and active engagement and processing. Wait a minute, these are the same exact things I would recommend now. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that all of this was definitively known in 1979. Robert Bjork turned out to be an extremely prolific and forward-thinking kind of person, but it's not crazy. These are all reasonable takeaways from the research as it stood at that time, 40 years ago. And people would make the same recommendations for studying in the 1980s, and in the 1990s, and in the 2000s, and in the 2010s. But if you look at how students study, not a lot has changed since 1979. And if you look at how teachers teach, not a lot has changed there either since 1979. So the question is, why hasn't a change in understanding and how learning works not caused equivalent changes in how we study and how we teach? That's the question I am going to try to answer in my next video. I'll see you then.